Hey, Jeremy.
We are live.
We are going
Good,
live.
good to
Waiting for
be here.
everything to get set up. Good to see
hmm
you. All
I'm
right.
really happy to be here. I want to make sure we're on Instagram, YouTube,
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
I'm getting things set up over on Instagram now. Let me know if you do see us live over on LinkedIn and on YouTube. But happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to our weekly Career Accelerator Q&A. Great to have you guys here. If it is your first time joining, welcome. We're going to get started in a second. We just want to make sure that we are streaming across our platforms right now. I see us live over on Instagram. Hey, everyone, from joining us over there. Jeremy, are you seeing it live on LinkedIn now as well and
We
YouTube?
we are on LinkedIn and we are also on Instagram and finally on YouTube.
All
So
right.
hopefully everyone could see us and hear us well.
Ready to rock and roll. Well, again, welcome everyone. Happy Friday. We are about to kick off our weekly Career Accelerator Q&A. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We're really happy to have you here. My name is Tiffany. I'm a CEO and career coach, and we focus on really empowering high achievers, mid-stage to senior level professionals in your career to really accelerate that, whether that's landing your next role, getting further ahead in your organizations in terms of promotions and raises, or really mastering all of the soft skills that you need to just set yourself apart as a peak performer and all of the amazing opportunities that come alongside that. So please know that there's no such thing as a stupid question here. All questions are welcome. We're also joined by Jeremy, our amazing COO in my business. Hey, Jeremy, great to have you here.
It's good to be here, everyone.
Yeah, I always love having you here, Jeremy, because I find you bring such an interesting perspective when it comes to leadership and more of an executive lens with some of the questions that come through, so that we really bring a very holistic perspective, I would say, for those joining us. And this is
Thanks.
a Q&A, guys. So please do not hesitate to share any questions that you have. You can drop them right in your respective comment section. So those joining over on Instagram, please feel free to share any questions that you have with us. And I'm going to just be looking on this screen to pull those up. For those joining on LinkedIn and YouTube, again, please comment the questions that you have. We'll be able to see them come up on our end. Also, as a reminder, we are streaming across LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube right now. So please do choose the platform that you feel most comfortable being on to ask those questions. We know sometimes the questions you might have are a little sensitive, or maybe you don't feel as comfortable posting them on one platform. So we really do like giving you that variety as well to meet us where you feel most comfortable. Um, okay, anything I forgot, Jeremy, or ready to dive in?
No, we can't wait to hear your questions. Please, as Tiffany said, don't be shy. We're here to help you. We're here to help you accelerate your career. We don't leave anything on the table. So please feel comfortable sharing, your most pressing questions on,
Yeah.
how to do that.
And it's such an important time of the year too, guys, right? Because we are entering this home stretch, whether you want to call it the September surge or whatever it is. This is a pivotal moment where companies are making decisions. They're making
Mhm.
hiring decisions, they're making internal advancement decisions, and we want you to get ahead of it. It is so important to not miss the boat. And I know there's a lot of negativity out there, can feel really overwhelming and discouraging, but that is really our goal with our weekly accelerator Q&As with you guys, to just remove that guesswork and help you walk away with strategies that work, that are absolutely allowing our clients to thrive in a very difficult market. And, there is absolutely hope and there is possibility. We want you to be able to capitalize on that. So we can't wait to see the questions that you have. I know, Jeremy, you got a few ahead of time. I do see one that came through over on Instagram. So maybe I'll start with that one. We'll
Mhm.
come to some of the ones that you got earlier via email. And
That's
then if
good.
anyone else has questions, again, please don't hesitate to just drop them in. All questions are welcome, guys. Anything tied to career, we want to take and support you in that. Okay, we have this question. I think it was the first one I see from Instagram from Core Ardon. Thank you for the question. I have a panel interview and wondered if you could give me some tips on how to prepare and do well in the panel interview format. Thank you. This is such a timely question for you, Core Ardon. It's so interesting. Yesterday, I had my group's coaching session within my Career Success Fast Track program, and two of our clients just crushed their panel interviews. And we were talking actually really extensively about that because we know that panel interviews are no joke, right? They're pretty intense. I don't know what the nature of yours is, if it's, meeting three back-to-back sessions, if it's one panel at once and it's a 1 hour or 2 hour engagement, but whatever it is, these panel interviews typically tend to go like a few layers deeper versus the first interviews that you've had. Okay. So if you are preparing for your panel, you probably already have certain insights from the earlier interviews that you've done around what the key focuses of the role are and how you can really position and solidify yourself for what they view as the solution to those needs. Okay. I'd say one of the most important things going into a panel is doing your research ahead of time of who you're meeting with. Okay. Often it's maybe you're like, who's going to be your new manager or someone on your team, or another influential leader. And so you don't want to go in blind. And if you don't have that information, please ask for it. You can ask the person who is coordinating the interview to let them know you really are looking forward to making the most out of that time. And if they can share any insight of who specifically you'll be meeting with, you'd love to be able to use that in your preparation. Right. And then once you know who those people are, you can obviously stalk them a little on LinkedIn. You could even make light of that in the interview if you want, but ultimately look at who they are, look at their background, look at their role, try to do a little bit of that research so that the questions that you also ask in your panel are very relevant to the work that they do. Okay. It all goes back to building that conversationality. The other thing that you'll want to do is based off who they are, probably have your examples ready based off their areas of the business. So if you're going to be meeting with one of the panel members who's going to be your new boss, well, you're probably going to want to have answers ready around how you deliver in the role, or maybe the needs of the team, or what their objectives and priorities are for the remainder of the year. Whereas if it's someone that is a little bit more far removed, maybe that's going to be a little bit broader types of questions that you want to prepare for. So, based off who you're meeting with, that will also indicate the type of questions and answers you want to be preparing. For what it's worth, guys, we also hosted an amazing Nail Your Interview workshop a little while back. I'm going to have Jeremy just drop the link here in the comment section on LinkedIn and YouTube. But if you are joining on Instagram, which I know this question was, joining us from Instagram, just comment workshop and we'll send the link for you to watch the replay because it's going to help as you're preparing for your panel. The other thing that you want to do is remember the importance of building rapport with everyone. So, maintaining eye contact, engaging, asking questions as much as they're asking you questions to show what it would be like having you on the team. This is going to show them already how you think, how you ask questions, how you effectively, answer challenges that they might be facing. These are all really important nuances that you want to bring forward in the panel where they can really say, hey, my gosh, core art on, like we could get a really good sense of what you're doing, how you could bring value here, and how you've done that before, right? You want to show examples with what I like to recommend a what, how, result structure. So, what you've done, how you've done it, and the result that it brought, and tailor to the different business areas of the panel members. Okay. And the more that you can do that and practice that, the more you're going to really nail it on those different facets that they're bringing forward in their questions with you. Okay. But those are just a few things top of mind in preparing for a panel. You obviously want to engage with all of them. You want to show genuine interest and curiosity in their area of the business. And don't be afraid to ask clarifying questions, probe, understand, what is the need that they have on the team? What's their biggest challenge? What are some of those pain points? And then layer that into your answers of how you can support them directly in that. That's just going to be like check, 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 check. Not only can she do what we need, but she's actually proven to do that before. And that means that she can do that with us. Okay. Maybe
Mhm.
as a last quick thought, when you're dealing with a panel interview, you might hear language that they'll share something like, the way that we typically do things here, or the way that we run the team, or the way that we do this. Don't disregard those points. They're really important because instead of you just jumping into your answer, you will probably want to say, okay, well, Mark, you just mentioned something really interesting that the way that we work as a team here is da 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 da. And using we language, it shows inclusivity. It shows that you're like part of what they're doing. And you could say, that's really great to hear because actually in my former role, I did something very similar and da 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 da, right? And you're going to follow that flow, but you're integrating the things that they're saying into your answers. So it's just reinforcing that fit time and time again. So I hope that helps. I could go a lot deeper, but I think already the Nail Your Interview workshop is going to be a great starting point. So definitely comment workshop if you haven't already, and we'll send you that replay. And maybe just as a quick side note, Jeremy, because I don't want to forget, we also have an amazing free event coming up in just a little bit this month. And it is an amazing career accelerator event. Okay. This is where we are going to be diving into the strategies, simple how to's, and templates that are really working very well for our clients this year in supporting them to move forward in landing new opportunities in on average 4 to 8 weeks, getting much further ahead on their promotions, getting anywhere from 30 to 50% raises. And like I said, this is despite a very challenging job market. Our clients are really thriving right now. And so we want to just come together and share this with you so that you know what to do and how to do it without the guesswork and just in time for your end, which, as I mentioned, is such a pivotal time of the year. So if that sounds good to you, if you're like, okay, Tiff, I'm ready to go, let's make some moves happen. I'm tired of sitting on the sidelines and not getting the results that I want. We're going to change that for you. Please save your spot. I know Jeremy just shared the link for our event right over on LinkedIn. But if you are joining us on Instagram, please just comment career and I will send you the details to join us there. Okay. All right. Hopefully that helps for you, Cora Ardon. Let me know. Really rooting for you. All the best of luck with your panel interview coming up. Okay, Jeremy, why don't you share some of the other questions you had gotten ahead of time? And then as a
For
reminder,
sure.
guys, please don't hesitate to drop any live. We are taking them live. We are able to support you on the questions that you have right here and now.
And if I may, before I jump into the next question, just one extra tip, and this is for everyone listening in, whether it's for an interview, a presentation, internal meeting with your team, or a larger kind of internal group setting, always tie in how it drives the business forward. Always tie in what's in it for the business. Whether I was in my position as CEO for my former company, whether I was in the C-suite of a larger company, I always made a point when I finished, a presentation, an interview question or whatnot. I wanted to see whether the candidate knew how to articulate how this would drive the business results or the business forward. This is super important that you tie that in. So you tie in why you're, the ideal candidate for the role and how you as the ideal candidate will drive the business results forward. This is very, very important. That's essentially what leadership wants to hear, is how you're going to move the needle. So just a little extra tip there. We have 3 questions from our email subscribers. The first one is from Paulo. A really good question, which is, I've always been comfortable communicating with my immediate team, my immediate colleagues, and my direct boss. But when I have to do so with our senior team, my boss's bosses, I get nervous and I fumble with my words. And I then obsess about how bad it is for days after the meeting. Do you have any suggestions?
Oh yeah,
This is
Paulo.
from
It's Paulo, right?
Paulo. Yeah.
Yeah, what a good question, Paulo. Thanks for bringing that in ahead of time. So, yeah, definitely some thoughts for you on this. If you are in a situation where you get nervous or a little bit more intimidated, let's say, in speaking with your senior leaders, so those above your immediate team, your immediate boss, first off, that is very normal. It's kind of gets the best of all of us. What's really important to remember is this: those leaders are actually counting on you to share that information because they are not as close to that area of the business as you are. What I mean is, you might feel that they're more seasoned, they're more experienced, they, run the entire division or company, and you're nervous to share things with them. But you have to remember that that is their job. That is their job to ask the challenging questions, to push you, to make sure that the information you're sharing is helping them make the best decision moving forward. It's not about you, it's about what's best for the business. And you are the best person to tell them that because you're the one closest to that area of the work that you handle. And so they don't have those micro details, they don't have the ins and outs of what's happening in what you're doing. and they are counting on you to share that. And so that's the first thing to remember that alleviates some of those nerves where it's like, okay, it's actually like my duty to share this. And they're counting on me for that, not in a high pressure way, but more of like, I have to share this information because it's going to help us together make that decision, which actually leads to the second point that I wanted to share, Paulo, which is a mindset reframe. Okay. When you're speaking with your senior leaders, often what creates those nerves is you're going in thinking it's me versus them. It's like, I've got these things I got to tell them. They're going to come on the other side of that table or virtual call. And, I'm really nervous of what they're going to say. What if they don't receive it well? What if they push back on me? I don't know. Right. But when you start reframing a me versus you mindset to an us versus the challenge, opportunity, problem, whatever it is, it totally changes the game for you because then you start realizing, hey, we're actually all working towards the same thing here. Yeah, they might be more experienced. They might know more than me, or they might, have their own perspective of what I'm going to share. But my goal coming into that conversation, and I know my stuff because I've shared it with my manager and I've shared it with my team. So I know my stuff. My goal coming into that meeting is to help them understand that together we are working towards this. I'm bringing forward this information in a synthesized way that will help them know what exactly we need to focus on, what the recommendations are, why that's important, and how that will bring value to the business. Just like Jeremy was sharing earlier, right? Moving the business forward. And we're in this together. And so when you start thinking about how can we as a unit get past this problem, get past this challenge, work through that opportunity, now it's like, okay, we're just collaborating here. It's not something that it's you versus them. And that has been, I think, one of the most pivotal shifts I've personally faced in my corporate career. And it's helped our clients so much in building that confidence in speaking with leadership. Okay. What I will say, Paulo, if you are over on my LinkedIn, go check out my LinkedIn profile. I have an amazing LinkedIn learning course on storytelling to influence leadership and decision makers. I think it's going to help you a lot. And if anyone is joining us over here on Instagram, just comment story. And I'll send you all of my free LinkedIn learning courses, including this one, that will be really helpful for you. Okay. But you've got this. I think that's going to be really exciting as you work through those two key shifts, right? And just have confidence in what you're bringing forward. The last thing I will say, if you don't mind, Jeremy, just a lot of thought that's coming to mind is pre-vet your ideas before going into that leadership meeting. Meaning that if you have other stakeholders in that meeting that you might feel intimidated by or whatnot, you don't have to wait till being in that meeting to do the first show. You can speak with them one-on-one. Say, hey, I know we have the meeting with our CEO next week. I'm going to be presenting this. I'd love to run it by you already now to get your feedback, see if there's anything that I've missed, and integrate that so that when I do present it next week, everything's all on the same page. And you're going to be getting these great insights ahead of time. And so when you're in that meeting, not only will you feel more confident that you've done your due diligence, but you'll also have more of the support of those other stakeholders in the meeting with you because you've integrated them beforehand. So that's just a little pro tip that's worked really well for our clients. And I know it's going to help you a lot too. Any thoughts on that, Jeremy? Because I know you've had quite a few senior leadership meetings, and you've probably seen that, maybe with some of your employees as well that were more nervous or whatnot. And how, maybe from a leader standpoint, do you perceive that with your team, whether they're more junior or more experienced? What would be your kind of flip perspective?
So I want to offer the perspective of me as the leader, as a CEO, and me as an employee within a publicly traded company. So as a leader, at the end of the day, I always want the bottom line insight that my team is coming to me with. What's the one aha? What's the so what that you want to say or share? And then typically, what I would look for is then I will question or I will ask clarifying questions to further understand what this insight is or how this was implemented or executed. So for everyone listening in, the key that you want to do, executives, leaders are very busy. They are either deciding on a lot of things that need to be done before quarter end, for reporting season, things like that, or to drive the business forward, or they're dealing with lots of problems. So you want to cut to the chase and say the thing And then clarify either how you came to that insight or that objective was achieved or whatnot. Okay, so that's number one. When I was working as an executive in a publicly traded company, the key was similarly to state the thing, okay? And I would always structure my answers or my questions in threes to help myself remember what are the three things I want to ask or what are the three things I want to share. And doing, articulating your story in threes is going to help you a lot, kind of calm your nerves. It's easy to remember the three things you want to say and just go at it. And not only are your leaders going to remember those three things, you could start by saying, okay, hey, Jeremy, the first thing I'd like to tell you is this. The second is that. And the third is this. Let me break down the first thing. And then you break down the first thing. And then you say, I'd like to move on to the second thing. You break it down. And then finally, the third. Okay. And then finally, just a reminder, even executives, even CEOs are nervous when they have to present earnings to Wall Street, when they have analyst calls, when they have bad news to report, whether internally or to external shareholders, minority shareholders, activist investors. So this occurs at every level of seniority. So I would encourage everyone to remember that we all experience this in one shape or form. The key, to Tiffany's point, is finding these tactics, whether it's speaking in threes, preparation, finding advocates or preparing or speaking to these leaders before the actual presentation.
Yeah.
These are just ways to alleviate the pressure. So just some
Yeah.
extra tips for everyone.
Those are excellent, Jeremy. I'm so happy you shared that. I'm echoing all of this, so I hope that's really helpful for anyone, even outside of Paulo, that might be in that situation. We did get a couple other questions, Jeremy. I'm seeing, and I see one on LinkedIn, and then also one on Instagram. So I'll pull up the one from Instagram first, and then we'll come over. I see LinkedIn user on my end, so I don't see the name, but if you see the name, Jeremy,
Anjali, yeah.
Anjali, okay.
Yeah.
So let's come to Chavi Malhotra first over on Instagram. The question was, how do we know what career we are cut out for? How to decide what to pursue? Okay, so it's a big question, and there's a lot of layers to that. In fact, this is quite a bit of the work that we do with our clients because it's not just an easy black or white answer most of the time. What I will say is it's can be very overwhelming when you just have that question looming over you of what do I do with my life? What do I do with my career? And it can keep you feeling really stuck. I will say you don't have to pursue what you studied. As much as we might feel like that's something we have to do, you can make a change from what you've studied if that's something that doesn't really resonate with you anymore. But one thing that I'd encourage to help you get that clarity, it's a bit of inner work and outer work. Okay, so the inner work is actually reflecting on, what are the values that are important for you? When you're thinking of your work life, what do you want to feel? What do you want to experience? What kind of environment do you want to be a part of? Is it a fast paced environment? Is it a slow paced environment? Is it a certain industry that really resonates with your own passions? I was just sharing this story with one of my clients the other day. When I think back to initially starting out in my career and doing internships, I was doing the function that I loved, which was marketing, but for an organization and industry that I had like zero passion for. And that was a really important learning I was able to have early on around, okay, I know what I like to do from a work standpoint, but the importance of having the right industry and organization is just as important. So you almost want to think for you, Shavi, of what is that function? What is the industry? But also, what is the role that can bring that all together as well in the company that might line up well with that? That's one way you can start thinking about it. Another thing you can do is think about your own strengths, right? Because when you are entering into a role that builds on things that you're really good at, it's going to feel a lot more fluid for you. It's likely going to feel more motivating for you, right? If you're someone that's very creative, you probably won't feel very energized going into a data analytics position, right? That's much more analytical, right? Maybe you need to think of which industry and path is going to help you bring out your strengths even more. So that's another way you can look at it. And maybe as a third advice here is speak to people. Maybe you have in mind three different paths that you're exploring. You're like, okay, well, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. I'm pretty interested in all of them. Instead of it just weighing on your shoulders of, well, what do I even do? Which one should I take? Literally use LinkedIn and find people who are in those roles, who are in those functions, or maybe even in your target companies, and build networking connections with them to learn about their experience. And you can reach out learning more about them and showing genuine interest in them. So you're not reaching out to them, Chavi, saying, "Hi, I'm looking to figure out my next step. I want to connect." It's all about you. That's not going to get you a response. If you reach out to them and say, "Hey, Jeremy, I noticed that you are, a product manager at X company. That is amazing. Good for you. I would love to learn more about what that work's been like for you as I'm considering a similar path. Looking forward to connecting." Like that, it's a nice balance, more about Jeremy and commending him on what he's done that will feel more genuine than just a generic message. Okay. And so that's how you can build these inroads with those connections where you then get to chat with them and learn more about their experience and understand, what does that role actually look like? What are you doing in the day to day? What motivates you? What do you like working? What do you like about working with this company? These are all insights that you'll be able to then take back and get much more clarity on what it is that you actually want. Okay. So these are just a few different things you can do. Like I said, this is a big question. And so, if you are looking for more support on that, we're really happy to talk with you. You can actually book a free clarity call with our team. We can get to know you better and share also how we can support you in your next steps. I know Jeremy just shared that link over on LinkedIn. Thanks so much, Jeremy. And if you are joining on Instagram, which I know you are, you can just comment call and I will share the details to book a session with us after this. But I hope that already helps give a little bit of different reflection points of doing a bit of that inner work, but also outer work in terms of networking and researching and reading up on different roles and functions and industries and what that entails, and speaking to the people who are actually doing the thing. That is such gold in terms of wisdom of speaking to people who are doing the thing. They can help remove a lot of that guesswork for you. Okay, good. Any thoughts on that, Jeremy, before I come to Anjali's question?
No, let's move on.
Let's keep it going. Okay. So, Anjali, thank you so much for bringing your question forward. I'm going to pop it up over here so others can see. So, the question was, when researching your target companies, what are things I need to have on my list? This kind of ties a little bit to what I was just sharing in my last answer. But when you're researching target companies, the things that you want to have on your list are a fewfold. The first, and it actually starts before even looking at it from a company standpoint, we have to look at it from an internal standpoint. So for you, Anjali, what are things that are important for you in the company that you choose to work with, right? In terms of culture, in terms of leadership style, in terms of maybe how they manage their workforce, maybe in terms of well-being best practices, maybe in terms of the values that they uphold as an organization. You want to create your own list of the things that will help in your decision-making criteria. And then that's what you're going to use as a sounding board when you're researching target companies, right? You need some kind of benchmark of, what am I evaluating them against? And not just what am I evaluating them against, but what are those things that are important for me that I'm evaluating them against, right? Because maybe for me, Anjali, as an example, I love a fast paced environment. Like I thrive off of that. But maybe for you, you're like, oh my gosh, Tiffany, I do not like that at all. I want consistency. I want every day to feel very similar, but I want this and this and this instead, right? So you're going to know what that is, and that's going to help fuel the research that you do for your target companies to find ones that resonate with you. Maybe in a way, it's going to be the focus of those companies on the industry that they're in. Maybe if you're like, I'm really passionate about sustainability and giving back to the community, well, maybe then on your list of companies in your research, you're going to look for ones that are very involved in philanthropic efforts. You're going to look at ones that are very involved in community. You're going to look for ones that give back as part of their DNA, right? So you see what I'm doing here? I'm using it as inspiration as to what's important for you that's going to draft that list. And this goes beyond a role. This goes beyond the micro details of what you're going to be doing in the day-to-day. It's bigger than that. And it's important that for anyone who relates to this question, that we think about it in that way, so that you are also finding an organization, not just for the short term, but longer term, a company that you can see yourself being a part of and growing with, and that is meaningful for you. Okay, so that's what I would really recommend. It's helped our clients a lot in doing that kind of deeper work of not just this is the role I want, but a company I feel like genuinely really excited about, and then lining everything up. And here's the pro tip: when you're doing this kind of initial work on Jolly, when you then speak with that company, when you interview with that company, it's going to come through so loud and clear that
Mhm.
you are thinking beyond the role. You are thinking that, like, I genuinely love what you guys are doing here. Like, I genuinely love the mission that you stand for. I genuinely love the initiatives that are coming into the market, and I want to be a part of that. When you have that kind of energy and fit, it is undeniable, and they will feel it through your energy and charisma and the level of integrity that you're bringing forward in those conversations. So it does have a really positive benefit all the way around. Okay, hopefully that helps. Great question. Okay, let's keep it going.
I
Jeremy,
was gonna
anything
say the
to
same
add?
thing. I was gonna say the exact same thing.
Yeah,
When you guys interview, interviewers could see right through candidates who are just interviewing because they need a role, and candidates who use the product and who have used the product or the service for years prior to even being on a job search, because the way they speak about the product, the experience. Let's say you want to work at Sephora and you've gone to Sephora for years prior. You know the experience, the samples and all these kinds of things. It'll shine through the way you talk to the interviewers. This is what sets great candidates apart from everyone else. It's
yeah,
not just the skills, the resume, going through, rehearsing your answers, and all the important things that you need to do during an interview. But this is that
yeah,
extra thing that people will remember after the interview, and they're going to talk about you, and they're going to say, hey, we just met this candidate who's been using our products for 2 years, 3 years, 10 years. We need this person on the team.
yeah.
Her energy or his energy is infectious. So,
Mm,
pro tip: apply for companies within the industry that are hiring, things like that. But when you love what that company does, their mission, their products, it will immediately come through, to
yeah.
Tiffany's point. So,
Yeah. I love this so much, Jeremy. And it's reminding me of an example just from this past week with one of our clients who was following up with his dream organization that he's actively interviewing with right now, Coca Cola. And he had actually gone into a store that had one of their recent campaigns on the shelves. And he actually like took photos of him in the store with it. And he shared it as a follow up from one of his recent interviews and kind of made his own, recommendations and thoughts about the campaign and what he really appreciated about it. And it just shows that you're getting out there, right? And it was very well
mhm.
received. And I'm not surprised, right? Because when you're the employer and you're like, hey, like he's not just sitting back waiting for our response, like he's getting out there in the field. He's doing this thing. He's actually showing an appreciation for what we do. And if he's already doing that without hiring him, imagine what he would do if we did hire him, right? And so that's
Absolutely.
by just showing this really proactive effort that most people just unfortunately won't think of doing. But that's where you get to win, guys. And that's what we talk about here in our weekly career accelerator. We don't want you to just do the same old strategies that everyone uses. We want you to get ahead of the curve. We want you to do things differently that accelerate your career year over year over year. And by pushing yourself, being proactive, doing things differently, that's really the winning game, especially in today's market. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. For everyone that's just tuning in now, welcome, welcome. Please let us know what questions you have. We are in the thick of our weekly Career Accelerator Q&A. This is your time with us to answer any career-related questions that you have, whether in landing a new role, whether dealing with internal challenges in your workplace, or just how to prepare best for the rest of the year. Please don't hesitate. We love taking your questions and supporting you. We are streaming across YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So please join us on the platform that you feel most comfortable asking your questions, and we will take them on stage right here. And as a quick reminder, if you guys haven't already, we would love to have you join us for our upcoming free event, our Career Accelerator event that is going to really teach you all of our best practices, how to's, and ready to use communication templates that you can use right now in your workplace with your boss, in your networking conversations to get ahead and land that next opportunity much sooner than later. Whether it's around accelerating an internal role or moving into an external role, we want to make sure that you have everything that you need to make this an incredible end of year. We are seeing it happen with our clients. We've had 3 of them that just landed their new jobs this past week alone. And we want you to be in a situation where you are speaking about an incredible win that you've achieved instead of struggling with it. And so if you haven't already registered your seat, please do so. I know Jeremy is sharing the link over on YouTube and LinkedIn. And if you are joining us on Instagram, please comment career and I will send you the link right to your DM so that you can save your spot. It's filling up fast, and we would absolutely love to have you there. It's going to be a pretty big game changer, I will say. And I can't wait to share that. I'm teaching all new material I've actually never taught live before. And I want you to have that full playbook to use to your advantage. Okay. Jeremy, let's come back to one of the other questions. I think you got another one that came through ahead of time while we wait for some others to
Mhm.
come through.
Yeah, and if you're okay with it, I'll kick it off and answer if that's all right. It's a
Yeah.
great question from Nikita. By the way, I love these leadership questions. So Nikita's asking, I'm currently a product manager and I want to move up to a team lead position. What are some of the things that you'd recommend to show that I have the potential to move into a team leadership role? So this
Mm.
is a phenomenal question. Nikita, thanks for sharing. Uh, I would answer in 3 ways, right? So remember those 3 things. So the first thing is, and I see this far too often, number 1, show that you're someone who listens to understand and learn versus someone who listens to respond. So across so many organizations, so many professionals have opinions and they're just waiting to share their response with whatever statement their coworker, their boss says. You want to be someone who listens to understand and to learn. So that's number 1. Number 2, this is really important, everyone. It's so important to build a network of advocates within your organization. Now, here's the pro tip. Most people think they need to build advocates with their direct boss, and their direct boss will advocate for them. Now, this is already better than nothing. But here's the kicker. At more and more senior levels, when bosses or your immediate report is advocating for you, other C-suite executives or other executives will view that as a biased opinion. So what you really want to do is you want to have multiple senior people all advocating for you in those meetings, whether it's they're nominating new partners, new associates, whatever. You want multiple unbiased leaders advocating for you. So take the time to network and have a network of advocates beyond just your boss. That's number 2. And number 3, practically for yourself and for others, you want to work your way through making sure that you show that you have clear alignment on your goals and the team's goals, how you and the team have chosen to approach problems and opportunities. And you want to be the person who leads how to define metrics of success
Mm.
or metrics on how to turn things around. Finally, you have to show that you know how to prioritize. And then this is the key. You want your contribution to show that you're not just leveling up your individual contribution, but you're leveling up the entire team's contribution. When you
Mm.
do all of these things, you're showing leadership potential. So, again, 1, listen to understand. 2, build multiple layers of advocates, not just your boss. And then 3, show that you're the person who brings the whole team up, not
Mm.
just your individual contribution. So those are the things I would say, Tiff.
Yeah, that is
That
spot on, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so eager to share," because these are exactly some of the facets that we're gonna be diving into in our upcoming free event, and it's just so critical to know how to do that, right? I know we get a lot of questions that we support our own clients on of like, I know I need to build those connections with some of our senior leaders, and I need to elevate my leadership even if I'm not a people leader right now, but like, how do I actually do that? Like, how do I get people talking about me in a really positive way when I'm not there? How do I get them to see me as someone that can lead a team, even though I'm not leading people right now? And I think the other thing I would just simply add on that is just know that even if you're not necessarily a people leader, but you're aspiring for that, you want to be viewed as a leader, there's other ways you demonstrate leadership in your work. And I will even go so far to argue that leading your peers and support functions is even harder than leading teams that report into you because they have to report into you. But if you are able to inspire and influence people that don't even report into you, and you do it and you get them to do what you need them to do, that's leadership, right? If you are someone that can mobilize people, if you are someone who can move someone from point A to point B and it drives a great business outcome, that is leadership. Of course, there's other ways to think about it. If you are, mentoring team members, if you are helping train new hires, if you are leading trainings for your department, those are all great ways of demonstrating that leadership and you're ready to kind of take this next step. But Jeremy is so spot on with what he's saying because you need to have that alignment from those leaders. You need to build that perceived readiness that they view in the same way that you want them to. And this is one of the key things that we're going to also be diving into in our free event. So we can't wait to have you guys there. Please save your spot if you haven't already. I know the link is already over on LinkedIn and YouTube. And please comment career over on Instagram and we'll send you the details to join us. Okay, that was a great question. I'm going to
Mhm.
come to Melody's question, which is another really good one. Thanks, Melody, for joining us here. With so many companies, what is the best practice to narrow it down to find your target company? Yeah, it's again a bit of a bigger question, but it goes back to what I was sharing earlier around knowing. I think it was on Jolly's question around like what is important for you in a company, because that's going to already create your own self filtering, right? You don't want to just look at any company out there and then be like, oh my gosh, there's so many companies to choose from. Maybe for you, Melody, you're like, you know what? I actually want to work for more of a small to medium sized business. I don't really want to work for a multinational anymore. Like that's been good. It's been great, served me well. But now I kind of want to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond. Maybe that's something that's important for you. Or maybe you're going to say, you know what, when it comes to target companies, I want to really focus on companies that are doing this kind of work or that are like very innovative when it comes to AI. And like, I want to focus on that because I know that's the future and I want to be part of that. I want to build that. I want to see that from the inside. And so maybe that's what you're going to do and use as your filter to decide which target companies to go after. But you have to kind of create this initial filter for yourself and what's important for you and the type of organizations that you will feel motivated to be a part of versus just like letting it be a free for all. Think of it this way, right? You can like spray and pray, be like, I'm just going to do all of it. But that's probably going to lead you feeling really burnt out, really spread thin. And you're like, why is nothing really working? Whereas if you're like, okay, I really want to focus on like consumer brands. I love the consumer brand space. And I'm going to even go so far to say, I want to work in like the food and beverage space. Well, okay. Now we nailed it down. The PepsiCos of this world, the Coca-Colas of this world, and so on and so forth. We're like, those are the companies I want to focus on. But it's also tied to what you're excited about and what you're passionate about. And what I shared earlier around knowing what that is for you so that it's not even just about landing the role, it's about landing a role that feels like an extension of who you are. And that's the best way to find your target companies because it feels like an extension of who you are. I can tell you, Melody, when I worked for L'Oreal, and it's probably why I stayed there for many years, it was because I just felt so connected to the brands that we had and the way that we were serving our customers and my own passion for beauty and skincare. It just felt very natural. And so when you feel so compelled and tied to the company and what they do, it actually is like half the battle. And then you just have to find the right role on the inside that also meets your skill sets really well, right? So I hope that gives a little bit of context and insight of how you can narrow that down. But it's a great question. Any additional thoughts from you, Jeremy, before I take the other one that I saw that came through?
No, I think it's great, and Melody, I'm sure that in applying some of these tips, it'll help you narrow a longer list into one that speaks to you.
Yeah.
And remember, pick companies that really excite you, that you believe in what they're doing, the product, the service, the technology. It'll shine through in your conversations, in your messages, and you're just going to secure that job much more quickly because the interviewers, the hiring managers, they're going to feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Okay, we have another great question here from Airfry Central from YouTube. Thanks again for joining us this week. What are your tips for negotiating the offer and the non-salary parts? Example, sign-on bonus, stock, or other ideas? Yeah, so I love this question because there are quite a few things that you can negotiate in an offer. Probably most prominently is the base salary. And we did actually talk about that a little bit in our weekly live from last week. But what I will say is the non salary parts can be just as important. And similar to what I was sharing earlier, you want to probably decide which ones are most important for you. Right. So some of these are compensation related, like sign on bonus, performance bonus structure, stock, all of that, RSUs. But then there's maybe other ideas like vacation time, job title, start date, travel, right? If let's say, do you get a car? Do you need a car? Do they pay for your tech, like laptop, phone? These are all things that you can also negotiate. And there's like a whole list of things that you can go beyond just the comp part. But you probably want to decide for you, what are your non-negotiables? Because in any negotiation, you need to decide like what are the things that are most important for you, because it will be a compromise, right? So if you're thinking, okay, well, for me, my most important thing is getting kind of the salary that I want as a base, plus, nailing a sign-on bonus that would maybe top up the comp that I really want coming into this role. And then maybe there's one other thing that's important for me. Maybe I'd love to have like one extra week of vacation. Then that's what you want to go with. You do not want to come at it with a laundry list of things that you want, because it will turn them off really easily, especially if it is already a pretty compelling offer. A good amount of companies out there have a pretty comprehensive package that will already be fairly in line with what you want, and then you just want to decide from those things what are the ones that you want to negotiate on. And I would nail it down to 3, no more than 3. Okay, just like Jeremy's saying, we want to talk in threes and focus that way in terms of our communication. Same thing with negotiations. You don't want to give a list of 5, 6, 7, 8 things just because you can. That will likely lead them to be like, this is way too demanding, like it's all over the place. But if you come in and say, you know what, I really am very much looking forward to moving forward with the role, or I'm moving into the role. I have, a few outstanding points I'd love to speak with you on when it comes to the offer itself, namely X, Y, and Z. Would you be open to hopping on a call? We can run through that together. And then, like that, you've already set the tone. You're able to walk through the details and see where they have flexibility in meeting you on that. But these are like your non negotiables. And if they're like, well, we can't do a sign on bonus, and then you'd say, okay, if that's not a possibility, could we maybe relook the performance bonus and how that's structured or whatnot, right? And you're giving yourself these levers to play with, but you're keeping it very focused. Okay. And just know that you can always negotiate things also once in the role, right? There's things that at a later time you can negotiate. Maybe initial vacation time is good as is, but you're like, I'd love to maybe know, what is that opportunity to have more vacation time maybe once I'm 1 year into my role? What does that typically look like? And you're just asking clarifying questions as you get further in. Does that make sense a little bit? So as you see how it's all kind of coming together, those are different ways that you can definitely negotiate, but try to narrow it down to your 3 core things. That way it doesn't create complexity for nothing. Great question. Any thoughts from you, Jeremy, on that?
Yeah, a few quick things. So number one, the process of negotiation, and this is one of the things we help a lot of our clients with, and that's why they score such high salary raises. You never want to commit to a single number. Okay, so negotiations are a process of discovering each side's kind of information and the things that they know that you don't know. You don't know what the company has planned for the next quarter, the next 6 months, what your future boss is, who that person may be. You don't know that. They know that. So you want to be equipped with knowing what your real worth is for that particular role, responsibility, set of, deliverables, things like that. Using ranges is always better than committing to a single number, even if it's higher than your current salary. And to Tiffany's point, you want to give 3 options, no more, no less, reasonably so. Also, there are cultural nuances. So I'm not sure where you're writing in from, but let's say, you're currently in Europe and you're accustomed to longer vacation periods and you're moving to the US, that may be something that's not on the table. You could actually say, I'm accustomed to this, these number of weeks in vacation, and let the employer kind of rebuttal and say, well, we don't do that here. We're going to comp you more, actually. But you want to keep in mind that there are differences by industry, by country, and so on. So just a tip is, never overcommit.
Yeah.
Know exactly what your worth is and be prepared to have those kind of ready to go.
Yeah, that's a great insight, Jeremy. Thanks so much. Hopefully that helps as well. But we always want to make sure that you're maximizing those negotiations. It's really important. And just as a reminder, don't overshare in a negotiation. Don't talk too much, because that's a lot of the power in the negotiation, is to like actually share what you need to share and then stop and let them share back. That's where a lot of professionals that we've seen that have kind of botched their negotiations is like, because there's silence in the air, they feel like they have to keep talking, and then they kind of dig their own grave, and it's like, oh gosh, right? Whereas if you just show that quiet confidence of like, this is what I'd like to discuss, you put it out there and then you just wait for them to respond, it's going to actually build a lot more effectiveness in how that negotiation plays out.
One
Yeah.
last thing. I'm sorry, I think it was Air Fryer Central. One last thing. Never accept something that isn't written. So, for example, if you get an offer and the offer comes in verbally and they say, we'll revisit your salary in 3 months, in 6 months, and you get all excited, right? We're gonna give you 20K extra after Black Friday. Make sure it's in writing, because that interviewer, that hiring manager, your boss may actually be leaving. And by the time you're speaking to someone else in 3 months' time, there is no record of that offer.
Yeah.
Okay, so just make sure that anything that is promised to you after a start date is in writing,
Oh, yeah.
when it comes to the negotiation piece.
Oh, yeah. The power of documentation. So important. We had one of our clients, Priya, who just landed her new role through our program a little over a month ago. And that's exactly what we did for her. She not only negotiated her salary raise going in, but we also negotiated in writing in her contract for another review 6 months into her role. And she was so happy about that, because she's like, wow, that's never happened before that I've actually gotten that kind of thing in writing. I'm like, yeah, this is how we're going to do it. And so she just felt really good going into not only a company that values her so much more than her previous toxic workplace, but also being compensated in the way that she wants, and already having on in writing on the books that there will be an official review of that upwards in 6 short months from now. So yeah, it's 100% possible, and really excited for you to negotiate through some of these offers. Keep us posted how it goes. All right. I mean, I think we covered all the questions that came through, Jeremy. This was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Thank you guys again for joining us on our weekly Career Accelerator Q&A. As a quick reminder, normally we do these every Wednesday and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. For next week, exceptionally, due to some work travel that we have, we won't be hosting our Wednesday session, but we will be back here next Friday on September 20th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, which is actually my birthday. So please do join us and have a little fun birthday celebration here as well. But we look forward to having you guys back here. And again, I can't reiterate enough, guys, if you haven't already saved your spot for our free event coming up, like, you don't want to miss this. It's literally going to change the game in how you view your career, how you take control in landing your new opportunities and accelerating your growth and income. We want to have you there. You can simply comment career over on Instagram or DM me career on Instagram, and I'll send you all the details. If you're joining us on YouTube or LinkedIn, you have the links right there in the comments to save your spot. We can't wait to have you there. It's going to be wonderful. And yeah, we will see you all back here next Friday. All right. Have a
All right.
wonderful weekend, everyone. Thank you, Jeremy, for spending the time with us as well and sharing such valuable insights in the questions that we got through. And for any of you who have friends that you think could benefit from being here on our weekly accelerators, please feel free to share it with them. Share the links. Let them know we go live here at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, normally Wednesday to Friday. Next week, exceptionally on Friday due to work travel. But we look forward to seeing you guys back here. All right. Take care. Bye.